Good afternoon. Hi, Kevin. Can't hear you.
Hello.
There he is. Good morning.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Why?
George in his car.
Where are you? Where are you, Kev?
I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Albuquerque. You're a world traveler.
Yes.
I just had a fun San Francisco experience trying to get an espresso on my way into the restaurant. I had to stop at 3 different places. At the first one, I had to wait 10 minutes because the clerk at the window was entertaining a dog with a biscuit. There's a line of people there waiting to get coffee. And I stood there for 5 minutes and watched the clerk playing games with a dog, you know.
Yeah, well,
So,
priorities.
I mean, I wasn't in Manhattan, I'll tell you that. You know, Manhattan, people would have been, pushing people aside. Well, we're waiting. I confirmed with Signore Anania yesterday, but I don't see him here. This would be a first, if we have difficulties with our special guest, but perhaps we'll wait another minute or two. Hi, Amy.
Hi.
It
Looks like Amy got her coffee.
Amy has her coffee. Yeah, for sure. There is one very intriguing unnamed frame here on my Zoom screen. I've never seen that before.
Unnamed? Oh, this one here.
Yeah, this
Could be Luigi.
Antonello Rovolotti would call it the innominabile.
Oh, yes.
Well, I don't know how I feel, about this is the last of the 3 of the noontime live, Zoom live from Italy sessions. And in a way, I think I probably represent some of the sentiment that some other people feel about being happy to get back to the evening time slot. And I also have to say, the first 2 of these with Benjamin Ziderich and then with Signore Rovolotti last week were quite enjoyable. I really loved both of them, and assuming we're going to get to lay eyes on Luigi here in a minute, I similarly enthusiastic. I'm going to quickly send him an email and see what I can do.
Do you have a WhatsApp number for him?
I don't have a WhatsApp number. It's an interesting question. I could have, I could perhaps have asked for that.
He could be having some technical difficulties.
Send him a quick note right now. We'll see. Okay. Well, as it's always the case, we are prepared here with our in-house sommelier team to kick this off, and I have every confidence that we will be joined at some point over the course of the hour by our special guest from Montalcino. The introduction that I had in mind, as I always do, is to talk a little bit about geography, and I have pulled up here, and I'm going to share with all of you guys, just so we're on exactly the same page or screen, as the case may be. This image from Google Maps that places that red pin is the little village of San Angelo and Colle, which I am not an expert on Tuscan geography. However, if I zoom in on this, you'll see something interesting. So of course you see Florence and Siena there to the north, and you see that that this spot in Montalcino is slightly closer to Florence than it is to Rome. And then if you continue to zoom, you can essentially, you see the beautiful, just shockingly beautiful little city of Siena there off to the north. And essentially from that, between Florence and Siena, Montalcino is south of Siena, and San Angelo and Colle, where the red pin is, represents sort of the southern edge of Montalcino. So that, in a nutshell, from the red pin all the way until just about 20 minutes or so south of Florence, where Rada is. Rada is maybe half an hour south of Florence, and that area is, is the prime growing area in Tuscany, Montalcino on the south, and Chianti and the various communes of Chianti in the north. Another thing that I'm going to share with you very briefly.
And Matt,
Yeah.
just also, if you can, the Rosenthal site has a wonderful map of the Tuscan appellations and the relationship between Montalcino with Chianti. And it's not like the satellite one you have, but it's different, a little bit more graphic and two-dimensional. It's also helpful to see the size of Montalcino and the appellation compared to the rest of the appellations of Tuscany.
Right.
But we could do that later.
All right. This is the other thing that I wanted to share that I pulled up from my visit.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
So this was one of these, I'm not an expert photographer, but this was one of these panoramic shots that I took with my phone. And this is from the village of San Angelo and Colle, which is absolutely tiny. It's like 2 restaurants and 4 shops and that kind of thing. And this is the road on the southern edge of San Angelo and Colle, basically looking down sort of southwest towards Rome. This is the view. And the reason that I wanted to show everybody this shot is to represent the way that some of these towns in Montalcino are quite hilly, right? The elevation is somewhat substantial, as you can see. As you look south here, it basically drops off into this, broad valley as it moves south into central Italy, right? Kevin, that makes sense to you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I think we might as well, very often in these tastings, I was thinking about this morning, we have questions about whether to start with white or the red. I think today is a very easy call to make, that we would taste the younger Rosso di Montalcino from the younger vines, and then move into the hallmark wine of the property, which is the Brunello. I just got a note. Hold on one sec, guys. I'll be right with you. Sorry for the interruptions. Technical difficulties. Seems that we just got a note from our friend Cecile, said she's having a hard time logging in with her computer today, but they're on with the iPad, and we can see you there. All right. In any case, still gaining joiners here. I'm going to pour a little splash of this 17 Rosso. Kevin, you have the wine?
I do.
Open and ready to go?
Yes, in my glass.
Okay, great. Kevin, you want to talk a little bit about your sense of different Sangiovese clones from different parts?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the contours of Sangiovese and its variations, and just as a grape and Grosso.
Right, and Sangiovese Grosso, which is more specific to Montalcino, really, just like the name says, is just a larger cluster, a larger grape. And what's really instructive, I think, and hopefully, Luigi will join at some point, is to talk specifically about, this is an appellation that has drastically transformed certainly since Luigi's been there, which is the mid 70s, I believe, right? And certainly by the mid 80s, the amount of capital that moved into Montalcino and Brunello completely changed the landscape of the growers in terms of stylistically, and why this is such a special domain has a lot to do with where it is and the way they make their wine. And so this comes from one of the highest estates in Montalcino. They're at like 1,500 feet, which also informs the wine and the way they make it and the way the élevage in terms of the traditional. There are specific rules to Brunello, right? So you have to, barrel age for a certain amount of time, as opposed to the Rosso, which is in our glass right now, which is only required to be 18 months.
Kevin. Kevin.
Yeah.
Kevin. Can we start with Sangiovese?
Say that again.
Can we start by talking about Sangiovese?
Sangiovese is a grape. Sorry. Yeah. So
your sense of the distinction between Sangiovese and Montalcino and Sangiovese and Chianti, and what you understand about different clones and variations on the grape in the region.
Okay, so the variations are actually not so specific to the variety as more to the terroir of specifically Montalcino and then the communes of Chianti. So the difference between Sangiovese Grosso and Sangiovese Normale, or any of these micro strains and clones, I can't really speak specifically to those.
What is your sense of what Sangiovese Grosso is? Sangiovese Grosso is talked about quite a lot as the particular kind of Sangiovese that's grown in Montalcino. Am I right? So people say Brunello di Montalcino is Sangiovese Grosso, as opposed to the Sangiovese and Chianti that people don't talk about as Sangiovese Grosso. Do you know anything about that?
I no.
Right.
I mean, not specifically as it impacts the wine.
When we're done with this, we will assign homework to everybody to do a deep dive into reading about Sangiovese Grosso. My sense of it has always been that people regard Sangiovese Grosso as a genetic offshoot of Sangiovese, that genetically speaking, it's not exactly the same as the Sangiovese that, for instance, gets grown and made vinified in Chianti and places like Rada and Castelnuovo, Beradanga, and those places. And also that Sangiovese Grosso tends to have a slightly darker complexion as far as the stuff of the genetic makeup of the grape is concerned. And that is the thing, in addition to the terroir, of course, that's the thing that separates these wines of southern Tuscany from the wines of the more northerly parts of Tuscany. As such, I think, and this is getting into something that you were talking about at the beginning, I think it is the case that Brunello is regarded as how would you say, where does Brunello fit in the pantheon of great Tuscan Sangiovese as far as your impression is concerned? What do we need to know about Brunello in general, or Montalcino?
Well, again, I think it's specific to the terroir, and I think it's got a lot to do with the treatment of the wine in terms of the appellation requirements. So therefore, it is grown and picked to withstand that amount of cellar aging. Again, built to be age worthy, which is an elevated, noble sort of quality in a wine. On par with Bordeaux and specifically.
I'm not mistaken, and the reason that I ask you this question is because I feel like you go further back in terms of considerations of the popular American imagination. That's sometimes that's the kind of question that I'm asking is what is our general collective sense of what Brunello di Montalcino is? And I feel like when people talk about Brunello di Montalcino in this country, they regard it as, and this is all apart from the question of the Super Tuscans, right? But just as far as the Sangiovese-based wines are concerned, Brunello is the Van de Garde, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
More than Chianti, more
Right.
even than, more even than the great Matarata. Brunello is, and is it your sense, because I have the feeling that you have tasted many more of these wines over the years than I have, is it your sense that Brunelli are often more than, for instance, the wines that come out of even the best zones in Chianti?
Did you say you said tannic because it just cut out? You said tannic. I read your lips.
Are
Yeah.
the wines of Montalcino typically a little bit beefier
Yes.
uh,
Yeah.
than the wines that come out of? And so that's part of why we, as amateur Italian drinkers, have the sense that the grand wine, the grand Sangiovese-based wine of Tuscany, is Brunello di Montalcino.
Right. And I think in our country, because Brunello really is only, uh, you know, in terms of just the American market receiving lots of Brunello examples, began in the mid 80s. And so 35 years ago, we're beginning to see not just classic Brunello being exposed in this country, but it's also the beginning of this modernization and infusion of capital into Brunello, which drastically changed the style. But to your point, absolutely, this is considered the vanguard noble expression of Sangiovese, this appellation, this bottling. And from our point of view, and also just because anybody sort of younger and anywhere between 35 and 55, you are now having to consider Brunello as an appellation and then the stylistic expression over that very interesting transformative period of time, which is just a blip in the history of Brunello, against what was happening in Chianti and then the emergence of the Super Tuscans and that interesting range of expression of Sangiovese, and then of course the variety.
The conversation about the Super Tuscan wines as it relates to Sangiovese production, I think is sometimes for me, there is like a cherry question in each of these Zoom sessions, something that is going to be especially juicy and that I find especially intriguing, and that I think is a really great subject to leave sort of for the last quarter of the Zoom after we taste through the wines. But I think this, Kevin, that I love that Super Tuscan conversation about how maybe in the 1980s, Tuscany tried to install itself on the world stage, definitively, to get these kinds of scores and to grow the same varieties as the other sort of championship gold medal growing zones around the world were winning. And that in so doing, well, let's talk about that. We'll revisit that in 20 or 25 minutes. Have you tasted this 17 Rosso?
I have.
It's monumental.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, to me, it's like actually plays into two things. It's this classic kind of construction, really elegant, really, and then it's also very specific to La Torre. So I love the vintage. I mean, I think we talked about 17, you and I privately. I kind of love this vintage. It's got a little bit more structure, a real pronounced mineral note. And I just love that. It's certainly, it's again another classification, Rosso di Montalcino, which has been stylized differently, often very very sort of fruity and pretty and not so tannic in the very modern expressions. And then this one, which is like really like a beautiful austerity and a peppery, mineral driven floral aspect, which I think is so delightful, so beautiful for food, really, and affordable.
So Cecile mentions accurately, referencing Jancis Robinson, that Rosso di Montalcino is made 100% from Brunello and aged for 1 year. And I think this is interesting because I don't think, so Brunello is, Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, Brunello is a classification, right? Brunello has to do with what happens after the wine is aged for a certain period of time in barrel and then aged for a certain period of time in bottle.
Yeah.
And and then it becomes Brunello. So this is to say, and I remember this from my visit with Luigi on the property, that the Rosso and the Brunello are derived from the same parcels on the site. They make decisions year in and year out. Very often, the younger vines, most of the time, the younger vines will be the predominant source of fruit for the Rosso di Montalcino. The
Right,
older
which is always
vines,
relative
which
to
is
where
what?
the estate is, right?
Sorry, say again.
And that's always, vine age is always relative to where the estate is at the period of time. And, you know, those decisions, which they have tremendous latitude, right? It could be, like you said, it could be all the same fruit. It's just the élevage is one is a year required. They lowered that, by the way. Luigi still keeps this wine 18 months in barrel. But, so you see what I'm saying? So, yeah.
So this is to say it's essentially the same site, you know,
Can
that,
be.
that it can be. Do you happen to know how big this property is?
I think it's almost 36 hectares. It's not small.
Yeah. All right. One of the interesting things to me over the years about these wines has been alcohol levels. The Rosso somewhat consistently is 13.5, 14%. This, you know, in recent years, even in vintages that have been moderate, like 2017, I think was a moderate vintage, the Rosso is still getting to 14% alcohol. But I'm not sure that that's super discernible in this wine. I mean, I don't get, you know, any sense of any extra heat, you know? Do you?
No, not in this one.
And did you taste the Brunello already? And that's why you're
The
saying
Brunello, you know, the Brunello 15 is definitely a generous vintage. Nice way of saying ripe.
yes.
But again, I wouldn't say that La Torre masks, you know, alcohol better. I think that they're just very aware of it. It's very much a based on the decision when they pick for these potential alcohols. So they're very aware of that, and they're terribly aware of the fact that, you know, alcohol levels, ripeness levels, like everywhere else in the world, have been something to really watch and be careful of. So, but I mean, we now have, you know, we have a really solid vintage here for the Rosso. We are going to have a very solid vintage in the 15 Brunello and certainly 16.
16 people are
Talking about it already, yeah.
and I guess 16, a lot of 16 Brunelli are already in the market now.
Oh, that's such an important point. That
Yeah.
is. See, again, this is why I think this is such a compelling Zoom for Brunello, and of course specifically because La Torre represents a really, I think a very grand and important statement. Maybe grand is the word. They would never use that word. I would use that word, but because of that very point. The market is now flooded with these ridiculously high scored 16s, which is a great vintage, no doubt. A great vintage across the board, actually. It's a great European vintage. But here, they're 1 year, they're 1 year before that. And again, that speaks to not just like some digging their feet in the ground and saying, no, we won't budge. We're traditionalists just to be traditionalists. No, they actually, they everything they do at this estate and everything they do in the cellar is to support this tradition of a well-cellared, grown to be age-worthy wine. It starts with that philosophy. So, and this is where it changes.
I have to interrupt you. I'm terribly sorry to do it, but I want to say hello to my old friend Luigi Anania, who's
Yay!
Now. Luigi, can you hear us? I think you're where maybe there's a volume situation. We can't hear you, but I can see you. Wow. Luigi, are you there?
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah, come
I'm
sta?
very happy to see you. Nice to see you. Can you share?
I have, this is Brunello 14.
Brunello 14. Can you
Yeah.
can you tilt? Are you on an iPad right now?
iPad, yeah.
We are only seeing you from the mouth up.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Now?
Fantastic. Now it's better. Thank you.
Okay.
There's an echo.
Are we, is Anita going to be joining us? Do you know?
Anita is, I think is joining us in 15 minutes, yeah. I tried to tell her to reach us earlier, but she wanted to get more beautiful. She wanted to get more beautiful.
Very good. That's great. Luigi, do you want to tell us about maybe a short history of La Torre? Tell us a little bit about the domain.
Yeah, the history, yeah. Allora, so, my father, the audio is good. Huh? Yeah, so.
We can hear you, yeah.
Just a minute. Yeah. Okay. So my father bought this 36 hectares. 1 hectare is, I think, 3 acres in 1976. And it was just a land with a forest. And there was this house that was abandoned. It was house of countrymen who worked for a big aristocratic family of Tuscany, Church Piccolomini. So there was the house of some peasant working for Church Piccolomini. And we restored the house, and first my father planted in 77 3 hectares of Brunello. I was 17, yeah. No, 18. No, it was, he planted in 76, so I was 17, yeah. It was very different society. It was a very rural society, very different from here, from now. And so we started to produce the first Brunello in 82. The first Brunello was 82. The farm is in the south part of the commune of Montalcino, looking to Montamiata, Valdorcia, to the west to the sea. Someday from the top of the house you can see the sea, yeah. And then, can you hear me? Something happened.
Yes, we can hear you. I'm just, I'm showing a photo of a view from San Angelo and Colle.
Yeah, wonderful. So my father started to work, but during that period I was getting the degree in agriculture, and I took the thesis, the degree with the thesis about Brunello, about comparing two traditional small farms with 2 great farms. So the 2 great farms were Castello Baffi, was just born, and Castel Giocondo, it was very big, yeah. So during studying, I started to work. And so my father was not so certain to keep the land, because he wanted, it was a very good investment. In 76, the land was 80 million lire. That was like it was like an apartment in Rome of 75 square meters, yeah. But then I convinced him to keep, and we started to produce 82 Brunello, 83, 84. Then I organized the cellar, and I planted other 3 hectares that are, do you remember, they are in front of the house. They are with the exposition to southwest. The first was 82, and then I can tell you the best year of the 80s. 82 was a quite good year, and I have still one bottle. So I opened one. It was it was a little bit the color of the brick in the but it was good. Sorry.
Can you answer a question before you came on? Before you joined us just now, we were talking about the Sangiovese grape, and we were talking about the difference between Sangiovese in Montalcino, in the southern part of Tuscany, and Sangiovese in Chianti and Radda and Castelnuovo Beredenga and those places. What is your sense for how the wines, for instance, that are made in Montalcino or even in San Angelo and Colle, how are these wines different from the other Sangiovese in Tuscany?
But there is an historical reason that it can explain it, because Brunello was created, as you know, by Clemente Biondisanti at the end of the 19th century, at the end of 19th century. And also in that period, also in Montalcino, there was Chianti. They made wine with Canaiolo, Sangiovese, Trebbiano, and Malvasia, yes. And this man that was very intelligent, very, very smart, so he looked at this vineyard of Sangiovese, and he chose some plants. They make a clonal selection. So he created a clone of Sangiovese that is different from the Sangiovese of the Chianti. It's called Sangiovese Grosso Brunello di Montalcino. He tried to make vinification with this grape, because he created a clone so many plants with the same genetic genetic, but
DNA or
material.
Yeah. And so he tried to age it in barrel, and I think that everybody, they were saying, "You are crazy. What are you doing? There's something very strange for us." I think that in the beginning, like all the men that have innovation idea, they were disapproved by the population. But then they understood that was very good. This Sangiovese was very good to be aged in barrels, and so they decided this period of aging that at the time was 4 years of aging in barrels. So now it's just 2 years. Yeah.
And my friend Kevin, who is with us here, and we were just talking about the way the Sangiovese Grosso from Montalcino tastes different from some of the wines of a place like Radda or other zones in Chianti. Do you think that the wines of Montalcino are a little bit darker, or are they a little bit more? Do they have more tannin than the wines of Chianti?
They have more tannin, yeah. They have more tannin, and I think that the classic Brunello, like I think my Brunello is classic in the meaning of tradition, quite traditional. They are not so red because they are aged in mainly in a big barrel, and so in big barrels the color it gets less intense. But I think it's better because big barrel, they make they create a fine amalgam. Can you say amalgam? Amalgam, it's no, you cannot say amalgam. They create a good balance between the tannin coming from the wood and the tannin coming from the grape Sangiovese. Yeah. Otherwise, if you use just barrique, this is my opinion. It's my opinion. Is that the tannin of the wood become overwhelming on the taste of the Sangiovese, and also, but they keep the color better because there is more contact with wood, because the proportion between wood and wine is more in favor of wood in the barrique because they are smaller. And the combination between the antociani, how do you say, do you know antociani? Antociani, they are the
color, the pigment.
The pigment, yeah, they combine with the tine of the barrique that they are more because there are more woods. And this combination make the color more more dark. It make it remaining dark. Yeah.
Can you tell us? We just tasted the 2017 Rosso di Montalcino. Can you tell us a little bit about 2017?
2017 was a very good year because we had not so many rain, just the rain that you need in August, September. I think, if I remember well, 3 or 4 rains. But then it was was quite hot, but was quite cold in June. And but it was very for the vintage. It's very important. August, but it's more important September. We had a very long and very sunny September, so the maturation was very slow, but with a develop of a very soft tannin, and so it's a wine that it's, I think, the Rosso 17, like Rosso. Sorry, the Rosso 16, like the Rosso 17, they are quite traditional. You see the color; it's not so. The modern Rosso, the Rosso, not modern, with another philosophy of mind, they are almost violet. This Rosso 16 and 17, they are the color is intense, but not. They are Rubin with how to say garnet. How to say with the Rubin that is becoming a little bit more orange. Not orange. Orange is too much, but going to orange. Yeah,
but brickish, something like a brick. You said.
Yeah, something like a brick. Yeah.
Right.
16 and 17, 17 was very different. You have 17 too?
Yeah, 17 Rosso.
17 Rosso, it's also traditional Rosso, but the year was completely different. It was a very strange year because it was terribly hot. And we made the vintage. Usually we make the vintage at the end of September, beginning of October. In 17 we made the vintage the 5 of September. That happened just in 17 and in 2003. That was quite like tropical. It was like 40, 41, 43 degrees during the summer. Yeah. Mm.
And what about
In 17, I like 17, but when we made the vintage, I was afraid because we had to pick up the grapes because the equilibrium, the balance between sugar and acidity was right at that time. We had to pick up the grapes, otherwise the acidity were going too low. But in the beginning, after the fermentation, we had this tannin that were very, they were not soft. They were very, they were not soft. Also, the taste of the wine in the beginning was herbaceo, like, how do you see, like herbaceo, it's
Herbaceous?
do you know the
Yeah,
do you know
herbaceous.
the fruit?
herbaceous?
Herbaceous. Yeah. But then with the time in the big barrel, the situation improved. I'm talking always. I talk about big barrel, but I am not against barrique. I have barrique too. I used barrique a small percentage for the rosso. Yeah, 15%. Also for the Brunello, 10-15%. Yes. I use mainly big, but I use also a big percentage, a small percentage of barrique. Yeah.
Kevin O'Connor.
Okay.
I would love if Luigi would just talk to us about the estate, their estate in relationship to the other, terroirs in Montalcino. I think it's really, really important to sort of just to paint that picture and his impression and his understanding of his own appellation. I think that would be great for us.
His own, you're talking about San Angelo and Colle in particular?
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
okay.
And their estate, their elevation, which is very high, the highest actually in the appellation, and how, just how he sees it, where he is in that whole world.
Luigi, what is particular about La Torre as far as terroir is concerned, elevation? What is different?
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah. So La Torre, it's as you see from the photo, it's very close to Sant'Angelo in Colle. Sometimes we go by walking to the restaurant of Sant'Angelo in Colle. It's 15 minutes, but no, by foot it's 45 minutes. But La Torre, it's 420 meters. And the soil, it's composed. There is no clay. There is very small percentage of clay, but there is mainly sand, limestone. Limestone. Yeah. And there are a lot of stones. I don't know the name of the stones in English, but the main stone is in Italian is alberese. Is the stone. Have you been in Florence? There is Palazzo Pitti. Palazzo Pitti is made of this stone. Yeah, it's called alberese. And so there is a lot of alberese and also a lot of calcare. I don't know calcare, but what I want to say that we work the soil every year since 40 years almost, and the stones they're coming out always. Yeah, and so 120 meters is quite high. It's not the highest place in Montalcino. There are vineyards at 600 meters that they make good Brunello too. And when the altitude it's quite high, like me, or it's high, you have the development, a lot of the elegance of the elegance. Like also in fruit, all the fruit from the hill, they have more aromas. So for the wine is very flourishing with a lot of taste, a lot of at the nose you have rose, you have violet, and red cherry. You have more elegance. You don't have a big structure. You have a big structure in if you have been in Montalcino, there is a village that is called Castelnuovo dell'Abate. That is close to the Abbey of Sant'Antimo. It's going south from Sant'Angelo in Colle. Is going no, I think is going northeast. Yeah, northeast. In that place, the altitude is very low. It's 100, 200 meters, and it's a lot of clay. There is a lot of clay. So you have these wines that are very, very, very structured, because clay, when there is clay, there is a lot of structure in the wine. But you don't have all this elegance and balance in the wine, and this flourishing at the nose, this flourishing sensation at the nose. Yeah.
Very important. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the 2015 Brunello?
2015. No, I am very satisfied because with 15, I think we had. There is another thing I didn't say about La Torre. When there are seasons with that are very dry, like 15. In La Torre, it's very good. There are other places like Castelnuovo dell'Abate, the place just they say that it's very good for the wine, for the Brunello. But when it's dry, they suffer a lot. They have to water it. They have to water it. In La Torre, you don't have this problem because you have the water table. The water table in the soil? Can you, how do you say water table? No.
Yeah, water table is understandable. Yeah.
Yeah, water table. It's very high. So in the very dry season, you have good result, good wine, La Torre, and the structure increase. So 15 was very dry. It's a Brunello with a lot of structure. Yeah, with a lot of structure, it's and there is a good combination of structure and elegance. And I am very satisfied because since 5 years, I'm changing the barrel. Always big barrel, but 15, 16, 17, 18. They in these years you feel the change that comes from the combination with new barrel with the old barrel. Yeah, because the new barrel if you use it with how to say moderacy, they give a lot of bouquet. Yeah. So 15, I am very satisfied. Yeah, and but 15 and 16, they were very good year. Yeah. 17, it was strange. For the Rosso was very good. Now we are preparing to bottle the Brunello 17 in June, and it will be on sale in January.
Yes.
It's a good year, but it's not like 16 and 17. Yeah. Also, there is another here. It's interesting. 14.
Yes.
14. the new barrel, they just were coming, so there was not so much influence. But 14 was a year with a lot of quite a lot of rain. Yeah. So you feel that the wine I like. I'm really, this is 14, and it's it has not structure, but it has not so many structure, but it's very classical, very traditional, and it's I like the old style of 14. Yeah, the old style, because if you don't have too much structure, you cannot put it in new barrel, because if you don't have so much structure, the wine become the taste of the wood. Yeah.
It's very interesting because, Luigi, when you use the word structure, when you were describing the other terroir of the northern eastern part of Montalcino, it's got more clay in it. Therefore, the wines are more structured. I understand clay. The vines will hold much more moisture. The clay holds more moisture, tends to produce a fleshy and fruitier, with more sort of like, flesh. That's kind of what you're saying is structure. But when we understand structure, we actually equate La Torre elegance. You see what I'm saying?
Okay. Yeah.
So it's different for us. When you use the word structure, you talk about, 14 doesn't have as much structure. Because it has all this elegance. It doesn't have, that mid palate, the structure you get in 15.
No potent. It's not powerful.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions about either of these wines that maybe we did not hit here? Luigi, am I right? You don't make any white wine, is that right? Do you make white wine?
No. I have now. I have my cousin that close to Montalcino. There is a quite new DOCG. It's called Montecucco. He bought land. He produced Sangiovese and Vermentino. That is white. Yeah. No, I don't make white. Yeah, don't make white. Yeah. Anita would I hope she's coming. I don't know. She has this idea to make Moscato or Malvasia. Yeah, Malvasia. Yeah.
You're not sure.
Yeah.
You don't know
I'm not sure. I like white wines a lot. I made I developed this taste for white wines after I made the course of tasting in Bordeaux. The course was very good, and I became to appreciate a lot white wines too. But now I am an expert of red. I am not so expert in making wines. Yeah. But maybe. If Anita or my daughter, now I am 62, and I wanted to improve. I want to relax, to make the wine with more relax.
Do you think that maybe you will come and visit San Francisco for maybe have a special dinner sometime?
Yeah, I would like. Yeah, with Anita, we had the plan to make before the lockdown, before the first lockdown, to make New York, Chicago, San Francisco, Chicago, and Toronto, because I export a lot of wine in Toronto too. No, a lot, quite the 3,000 bottles.
I want to ask you one more question, which is about the Brunello di Montalcino Riserva.
Yeah.
Tell us the Riserva. Go ahead.
Yeah, Riserva, I try to make it. No, I make it just in the year that they they have power and when I can make a selection from the year a wine that has more tannin, that you can understand it from tasting, but also from the analysis. For example, for 16, I made a selection and I put now, not now, since 6 months, 7 hectoliters of wine in barrique for 1 year after having been 4 years in big barrel. Yeah, it has a sense to make Riserva when you have you identify a wine, a year or a part of the year that has a strong concentration of tannins, and because tannins, a strong concentration of tannins and anthocyani allow a longer aging and a wonderful aromas, a balance between primary aromas and third aromas, the aromas coming from the oak. Yeah.
So Luigi, you make the decision for the Riserva only after you're tasting it years in the barrel, as opposed to making that decision earlier. It's later. Interesting.
Yeah. Tasting each year.
Yeah.
Tasting each year. Yeah.
So the last phase of its aging is in the smaller barrels.
Yes. Yeah.
Luigi,
I think that Riserva must be very, very different. No, they must be quite different from Brunello. Otherwise, it's no. It doesn't make sense to make it. Yeah.
Right.
what are in the last 15 years? There's 2006, 2009, 2012 Riserva. Am I right?
2012, 2006, yeah, and 2009, yeah, 2009.
And then you said that you're going to make a 2016 Riserva.
Yeah. It will be on sale from the 1st of January. Yeah.
But not here. No.
Yeah.
Not another 2 years in the United States. For Neil, Luigi, Neil maybe will wait for the Riserva a little bit longer. Is that right?
Neil, sorry, we will take Riserva.
Yes, Neil.
Yeah, I think
Neil will wait a little bit longer to receive the Riserva.
You mean to receive the Riserva in the States?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. He usually buys Riserva, yeah, but this Riserva, I will increase the price, yeah. The next Riserva.
We won't tell him. We won't tell Neil, Luigi.
No.
Luigi, last weekend I had the 04 Normale, 2004 Normale. It was spectacular. Just beginning to show. Just beginning.
Which year?
2004.
2004.
Brunello.
Brunello. Yeah. And 2004 was a year very similar to 14. If I remember well, I have, because I keep 60 bottles for each year, but it's a long time I have not tasted 2004. But I remember the year. I think that was not so powerful. Like, a little bit like 14. Yeah.
Very elegant. Really elegant.
Like 14. Very elegant. Yeah.
And really just beginning to to blossom. I mean, we decanted the wine for 2 or 3 hours, and it was really showing it very, very fine. You know, and there's something about, you know, specifically La Torre Brunello, the elegance, and you talk about the amount of limestone and stone in your soil, the expression of Sangiovese from your estate is very, very elegant. And to me, it kind of bridges the beautiful mineral elegance of other great wines from other appellations. I mean, I think that's what it's one of the beautiful specific things about La Torre Brunello, which sets it apart from a lot of the other Brunellos out there.
Yeah. You mean you feel the link with the terroir, with
it produces a much more mineral laden, floral, peppery elegance, and even in the body and the flesh, it's very, very fine. It's very stately. It's always very
Luigi, thank you so much for joining our Zoom here on Saturday. I can't.
It was a pleasure. Yeah, we will do it again. I hope in October all this terrible pandemic finish, and I want to come to the States. Yeah, no, after fall. Yeah, after fall. Yeah, okay.
We will be very happy to see you.
We will have a dinner together with everybody. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Next week with Gideon Bainstock, Clos Saron, normal time, 6 o'clock next Saturday. Mr. Bainstock, Pinot Noir from the Sierra foothills.
Pinot Noir, it's great. It's great. Yeah. Okay.
Ciao, Luigi.
Okay. Ciao, un abbraccio. I like you, everybody. You are very, very smart. How to say? Intenditeur. Yeah. Ciao.
Thank you.
Ciao.